us in. There's our in.
All right.
All right. Hey, welcome to the Fireside Tattoo Podcast, the official podcast of the Fireside Tattoo Network. We're at Space City. This is you've been at Space City before, right?
Yeah. This is my second year here.
Yeah. This is Dan Whipkey, by the way. I'm Jake Meeks, if you don't know me. This is our third. We missed 1 year. It's busier this year than last year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It seems like it's getting bigger each year, and this is definitely one of my favorite shows. I look forward to this one. So I had a
Because of
great
the size
time.
of it, or the
Yeah, it's it's a little more intimate as opposed to some of the bigger shows that are, they're just the big shows are just they're so commercialized and everything, So, and I think a lot of people come to those big shows because they're just kind of trying to check things out to see what it's all about, but it doesn't seem like everybody's there with a purpose to get tattooed.
Yeah. And this is definitely that kind of show. Everyone that walks through the store, there's a potential that they're going to get tattooed. And I don't know if that's because it's a smaller town, maybe with less opportunities to get tattooed just day to day.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems like to me. It's strange that I noticed too that everybody seems to book up right away. So there's very few that are taking walk-ups, which was my intention from the get-go. Was I'm not taking any appointments. I'm just doing walk-ups, and I seem to do better that way. I mean, it's you meet new clients. I'm only 3 hours from here anyway, so I meet a potential new client. Atlanta's just
Short
drive. So yeah, man, it's been good.
Yeah,
for sure.
You mentioned that the day or Friday, whenever we just happened to be neighbors here, booth mates. And you mentioned that you weren't taking any appointments and were just doing walk-ups, and then it seems like you've tattooed all weekend for the most part. I mean, you've had some downtime, but you've done plenty of tattooing.
I mean, I've had enough time to go grab some dinner, but I mean, I've been tattooing nonstop, since the doors opened on Friday. And even Friday being a shorter day of the convention, I mean, that might have been my busiest day. I kind of had some bigger pieces to do on Saturday, so I didn't get as many people in. But I did some quality tattoos on Saturday and some really fun pieces, and it's cool when somebody just comes in and picks something out of your book, and you're just like, oh, cool, everything's good to go. I don't have to draw anything. Everything's ready to go, and it's cool that somebody likes your stuff enough to pick something out of your book.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. When you come to take walk-ins, when you're do you prep drawings specifically for shows, or are your drawings? Is it the same kind of stuff that you're doing in your home studio?
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit of both. I mean. Back home, you have clients that, they're just into what you do, and they'll just come in and be like, yo, man, I just want something. Let's do something cool. And then you have clients that, they're pretty specific about what they want, and, they, whether it's a small Pinterest tattoo or whatever, I'm not above doing it, I'll just, whatever they want.
Yeah.
That's, I try to give them whatever they want and try and steer them in the right direction of, making it as cool as possible for them and something that's going to hold up for them,
Yeah. And you have a pretty traditional approach to tattooing anyways, right? I
mean,
your not just stylistically, but your technical approach to tattooing is...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what got me into tattooing, just those images from the get-go, and I was fortunate enough to apprentice and work with some people that, could help me along in that direction. So, I mean, it's I haven't really changed my style very much at all over the last, 15 years. I've just tried to evolve, but not completely change into a different direction,
Yeah. Something that I've noticed tattooing at shows at home, I have, I guess, more of a painterly approach. I like to layer. I like to build textures over several passes and watch things heal. And what I'm learning is that I have to change my approach to tattooing at shows. because I don't get that second pass for one thing, and because I don't get I don't know if it's just the environment or what, the lighting. A lot of things probably come into play, but I get in my own head a lot. And sometimes when I'm trying to like push boundaries, I'm trying to like build little textures, I can't read the skin as well at shows. I'm more distracted. So I found that I need to take a more traditional technical approach at shows than I do at home.
Sure. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's just easier to take a step back and simple things up. Like, anybody that's tattooed at a show knows about convention lighting.
Right.
This is probably one of the better lighting situations. I've actually gotten some great photos and stuff like that, of tattoos that I've done. But, I mean, I normally bring a headlamp and didn't check my batteries before I got here, and it's pretty much dead. So I've caught some pretty nasty shadows, but it's all stuff that you have to kind of overcome while you're at these places.
Yeah. We had talked yesterday about, well, I was telling you about the show, about doing this podcast for years, and how trying to take some deeper dives and get away maybe from just the where did you come from, what's your background or whatever, and like kind of jump into to something that I feel like is significant or important for our viewer base, for our listener base. And something that you had mentioned is that you had moved, you had a change in family, your daughter went off to college, you had moved from Buffalo to Atlanta after how many years of tattooing?
12 years.
So 12 years in Buffalo.
I was in Buffalo tattooing, and I just kind of took a leap of faith on that, I had some family situations change, and found myself just kind of like, all right, well, what am I going to do here? I owned a pretty successful shop up there. I mean, worked with some really great artists, and but I just I wanted something different. I just wanted to change things up and step out of my comfort zone. So I ended up selling my shop to a guy that I had worked with for 4 or 5 years, and he took over the place, and I just kind of took that leap of faith. The first move out of any city where you're comfortable, the first one is the hardest. Like you're so comfortable, whether it's because of friends or family or even financially comfortable. You got a laundry list of clients, and you had talked about how you have a big clientele in Memphis.
Yeah.
And and that's scary because you're starting all over. You're starting your career all over. Like if nobody knows who you are 900 miles away, you're basically starting over. So it's been really fun, really challenging. I've had to do some guest spots at times to kind of supplement some income at times, because, everybody goes through some slow periods, but the people with the big, client base, their slow periods aren't nearly as bad,
right.
But pretty fortunate, I landed in a good shop, and we stayed pretty steady, just that first year that I was there, it was, the slow time was a little rough, but I got through it, and now it's not nearly as bad. Here it is 3 years later. I'm starting to build up a clientele, and it was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. You just try and, like I said, you just try and give the client what they want. Like, I'm not above doing a Pinterest tattoo when they come in the door. That's a potential 10 clients. They go tell their friends, oh, so-and-so did a great job on my infinity symbol, and next thing you know, like it just, that infinity symbol turns into a half sleeve, somewhere down the road.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed tattooing next to you the last couple of days is that you are engaging when people come up. That's something that a lot of tattooers struggle with. They're kind of introverted anyways, and they tend to bury themselves in their iPad or their headphones, and people are looking through their portfolios, and they're not even making eye contact, and you're really fast to say, hey, let me know if you have any questions with anything.
Yeah.
It seems like a dumb and simple thing, but it's literally the difference in tattooing and not tattooing.
Oh, I'd actually have to credit a friend of mine that I worked with right off the bat, like during my apprenticeship and the first couple of years that I worked with. His name's Joe Fulmar, and he's up in Buffalo, and great tattooer. But I was always really shy about talking to people, and um, and yeah, and was just so great with talking to clients that it just rubbed off on me to where now if I'm on the street, I'm not going to engage a stranger. I'm still pretty shy, but when it comes to my comfort zone of being in a tattoo shop or being here in a convention, I feel comfortable enough to where I can engage and try to, you know, let them feel comfortable, because I know that, back in the day, like I started getting tattooed early 90s, and tattoo shops were still like biker shops,
Right.
They were still gnarly places to walk into.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much of that has really changed for a lot of people. They might feel intimidated by, approaching a tattooer or walking into a tattoo shop. But
Yeah.
the friendlier you are, the more comfortable they're going to be, and that's once again another potential client. Even if they didn't get tattooed that day, they might tell their friends like, "Oh yeah, I went in there, man. Those people are really nice, really helpful."
We talk a little bit about, or I have on the show several times, about how easy it is to forget how intimidating tattoo shops are. And even as a tattooer, if I'm in a town and I find myself walking into a shop, I feel it. Like, I'm like, I, and what's funny is, like, because of this show, I'll get recognized in different places at conventions and things like that. And I always thought it would be easier if people knew who you were. Like, you could walk into a shop and they'd be like, hey, I watch your show, thanks, whatever. But it's worse, because then you walk in and you think, what if they don't like me? What if I've said something that offends them? What if they know me
Oh, man.
and I, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's even
yeah.
worse than.
Oh yeah.
Whereas before, I could walk in and they don't even, it would be
Right.
like there's no way they would even know that I'm a tattooer, that I'm not. But
Sure.
But either way, the point being, it's intimidating no matter what, even for a tattooer to walk into someone else's shop. So you really forget how intimidating it is for a client, especially a first-time client, someone at a convention just walking around looking at portfolios. It's hard for them to engage. So you looking up and saying, hey, can I help you with anything, or what, I like your shirt, or whatever it
Right.
is huge. It's so important.
Sure. I mean, like, I remember, I don't know, it has to have been about 6 or 7 years ago, like I'm in Austin, Texas, and I like walk into Rock of Ages, and I'm like, all those tattooers they're so good, and I've always looked up to their work and stuff like that, and I'm just like, I immediately clam up and like I forget how to speak to anybody about anything, like didn't even tell them I was a tattooer, nothing, like just kind of in awe looking at their shop and stuff like that. And it's like that mentality of when I was a kid walking into a shop, and they were super nice, they were super helpful, like they were like, hey man, let us know if you need anything, but still it's that old mentality of like walking into some shop and there's some big gnarly biker sitting in there, that's, I mean, that was my first tattoo experience, so it's kind of always stuck with me a little bit. But now, like, you walk into shops and they're beautiful. They're art studios, they're galleries, So it's just not the same, but that old stigma still is the same in my head sometimes,
Me too, yeah. Back to the relocation, picking up and moving. So a lot of our listeners or followers maybe apprenticed in small towns. They're from small towns. They feel stuck, and they want to move someplace where there's more opportunity. Sometimes it's like a 1 or 2 shop town. They're like at strip mall kinds of shops and stuff like that. Having done it and built another clientele in really a hyper-competitive town. You're in an Atlanta suburb, but still, Atlanta's a crazy competitive town with tons and tons of great tattooers. What advice? Do you have any advice?
I mean, I guess the only advice I would have is, making that move is super tough. It's scary. I guess I would tell somebody, if you're thinking about doing that, go do a guest spot.
Yeah.
Call up a shop. Stay away from messaging them on Instagram. It's not. We've lost that contact of just calling somebody. But yeah, call them up. Say, hey, are you guys looking for guest artists? This is what I do. Try each town out. See what they have to offer for you. I mean, that's what I did. I was pretty fortunate that I actually knew a guy from Buffalo that actually owned a shop in Atlanta, and
I was going to ask you how you chose Atlanta. Was that part of the reason?
He had come up and did a guest spot at my shop, and we just ended up becoming pretty good friends after that, and so he was like, yeah, come on down anytime, and I was like, all right, and so yeah, I went down a couple of times. I did a guest spot, and I started to really like it, and I kind of had some spots on the map pinpointed of where I was thinking about relocating, but I got to Atlanta, and it kind of felt homey, like coming from the north and then moving down south is really different, but for some reason I just kind of felt right at home.
Yeah.
And
personality types different? I mean, obviously weather and things like that
yeah,
are
personality types are very different. The South everybody down here is really friendly.
Yeah.
Like when I first moved down here, people are like slowing their car down and waving at me. Like when I was like sitting out on my porch having a cup of coffee in the morning, they're just.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like that's.
Doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen,
Yeah. Isn't it funny that you get to like the northeastern United States and that doesn't happen at all, and then you cross the border and you get into Canada and everyone's super friendly all over again?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up 15 minutes from the border, so, going up to Canada is just a normal everyday thing practically as I was growing up. My parents had a cottage up there, so yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day, like. Just growing up in the city of Buffalo, and then, you jump over the border, and it's like, it's like,
yeah. I go to Toronto once a quarter, and, obviously that's a massive, massive city, so much traffic, skyscrapers everywhere, and people still just, like, walk right out in traffic because no one, people stop and let you go by. In a city like that, you can see it in a town like Huntsville, it's a small town, no traffic, but in Toronto, for people to, like, wave you across the street is crazy.
Yeah, Toronto is, it's one of my favorite places. I mean, if I could have figured out a way to move there, I might have, it's a fun town, and I always like it. People up there they're always really friendly, except for the homeless kids. They're kind of a little pushy when it comes to begging for change, but other than that,
Did you have so we already talked about how stylistically you've designed your portfolio in a way where you can take walk-ups and you can bang out tattoos fairly quickly, but at home, did you just depend completely on walk-ins to the shop that you
No, I've my experience of even from my apprenticeship was we were in a custom shop.
Okay.
And but I still love the idea of doing like, street shop style tattoos, So I had to kind of create this balance with that, like knowing that there wasn't a ton of flash on the walls for people to pick, So I kind of had to draw and develop my style in a way to where, even if they didn't see something on the wall, but like, hey, this is kind of what I was thinking, and if you're into that, cool. If you're not, like, I can make whatever changes you need. I try to be able to do whatever they want, like, but I try to, I think we all try to push our client into the way we see that design.
Sure.
And I would say 90% of the time they're on board. you know,
Yeah.
but 10% of the time you're not even close to being on the same page, you know, and so, you know, there's
That's
those
something.
challenges.
Yeah, that's something I think that's changed a lot that I've watched evolve. And as clientele has become more educated, whether it's through reality shows or whether it's through social media, that they're so much more trusting. Once they've done the homework to find an artist that they're happy with, they're so much more trusting in the process of creating the design and tattooing. The most common thing that I hear is like, I'm going to leave that up to you. You're the professional in this. And when I started in the mid 90s, it was a very micromanaged process by the client. And
Right.
that is all but gone, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that social media helps that. You know, they're looking through your Instagram ahead of time. You know, I mean, we still all have portfolios at our shop, you know, even though Instagram's just, you know, instant photos and instant gratification. I mean, we still have portfolios, and I feel like a lot of shops have kind of done away with their portfolio, and they're like, oh, yeah, just check out my Instagram or whatever like that. But the portfolio, like, it really helps. Like, when somebody walks into our shop, and we have a receptionist at our shop, and she runs that place so well, but she'll always direct them to our portfolios when they walk in, and they're not sure of, maybe they didn't do any research ahead of time, and you know, she'll be like, well, why don't you go over, look at the portfolios, and maybe find the right artist for you, you know, because we all do very different styles. You know, my boss is very painterly as well, like, you know, so me and him, our styles are night and day, you know, so, and, you know, we got, you know, black and gray, traditional, whatever. We got a little bit of everything in the shop, so we can pretty much accommodate anyone.
Yeah.
And none of us are afraid to say, hey, I don't think I'm the right person, but hey, you can get tattooed by them. I think they're better suited for you.
We've talked before about in the 90s and early 2000s, you didn't see a lot of specialists in anything. And in fact, you felt like you had to be a specialist in everything, no matter what it was. It was like lettering. Yeah, I do lettering. Like portraits. Yep, I do portraits. Of course, now, like, I would never, I draw and paint portraits a lot. It's one of my favorite subject matters in drawing and in painting. I won't attempt to tattoo a portrait because I've seen David Vega tattoo portraits. Right. I've seen Nico Hurtado do color portraits. Like, okay, there are people that they've got that pinned down. Let's let them do it.
You know, that's one thing that I think the more we educate our clients is the better, because, you know, it's not like shopping for sneakers, you know, like, just because you can get the same pair of sneakers at two different stores, you know, they think that every tattooer can do what they're looking for, that we're all just that well-rounded, you know, like, when somebody comes up to me at a convention and they want, like, some crazy lettering, I'm like, you know, like, man, there's probably
someone
15 people in here that can do that 100% better than me, you know, so, yeah, that's the one thing that, you know, I really wish we could start pushing more on the client, that, hey, you know, I mean, not everybody can do this, so maybe price shopping isn't your best option, you know, for that tattoo, you know, like, find the best artist. If you want that tattoo that bad, the price isn't going to be a concern, you know. You're going to want the best person for that design.
Yeah, finance that thing out in your mind for the life of that tattoo and see how much it really costs. What's the difference between the $1,000 tattoo and the $450 tattoo? Like, you know, amortize that over however many years you have left to wear it, and it's pennies.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like, that's, you know, and I always try to tell people, like, you know, I know the sticker shock, you know, scares people off on a lot of things, you know, but I always try to tell them, hey, you know, we can always break this down into a few sessions if your budget isn't allowing you to do this in one, you know. But do I prefer to do things in one shot? Most of the time, but you know, it depends.
Yeah. Something and I'll let you. There are tons of people looking at your book, so I'll let you go in just a second, so you can take a walk up. There, as far as with kind of the main subject of this show being the relocation, building a new clientele, just taking the leap. I had, I'm drawing a blank on the name. We did a podcast with Tattoo SEO. It's they're not tattooers; they're just search engine optimization people that chose the tattoo industry to focus on. And they did, in exchange for the podcast, they did a targeted promotion for me for a show that I was going to, because I was like, well, what exactly do you do? And they're like, well, we will help build your presence in your city through search engine optimization. And I was like, can you do it for a short period of time if I'm going to tattoo in London? They're like, yeah. And so I was like, cool. I'll be at this show. I think it was Phoenix. I'll be at Phoenix these days. They did targeted ads, or like promoted me in Phoenix, and then on their website, and then the people that came in with interest were just forwarded straight to me. It was an overwhelming success. I turned down so many tattoos in Phoenix online before I even got to the show. People were just emailing me like, hey, I found you on Tattoo SEO and saw that you're going to be in Phoenix. Could you do this? Now, I did get hit with a lot of tattoos that I probably wouldn't take on at home, a lot of lettering stuff, a lot of small stuff. But if you're just going to see a city or to see a show, experience a show, I think that, and you probably don't have to hire a Tattoo SEO to do that. I think you can do targeted ads on Instagram now, and like target an audience in a town.
In that city, yeah. I've heard something about that. Yeah, I've never
done that.
No, but yeah, I mean that sounds really cool. I mean, like I'm doing a show this year overseas for the first time ever.
Where is it?
Russia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we're really excited about it. But we're
the whole shop's going.
No, well, just me and the owner of the shop. Okay. Yeah, we're actually doing 2 shows over there. One in Siberia, which is crazy, and then another one in St. Petersburg. And we're just.
So how long will you be there total?
I think we're there for like 15 days or something like that. But I mean, the one in Siberia, like they were so stoked that 2 Americans were coming over. They put us on the top of the website and everything like that. But as you were saying, that Tattoo SEO, so that they can do that overseas as well. Cool.
I think anywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think you can do it through Instagram. It just popped in my head while we were talking about, moving and building a clientele. And I know, if you're picking up and moving, it's you're budgeting pretty hard anyways. But a $6 promoted ad for the new town you're moving to probably is a pretty decent investment.
Yeah. I mean, even if the ad was $100 or $200, I mean, you get one client out of that. That's going to pay for that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it. That kind of, in a way, that kind of sucks that we have to pay for advertisement, when we had free advertisement. I mean, Instagram was a tattooer's best friend at one point, and, the algorithm has kind of killed it for a lot of people. I mean, you see some people on there with, 270,000 followers, and only 1% of those followers are seeing their tattoos, like
crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer for everybody,
Yeah.
And I don't do Facebook or anything like that. I've never,
Yeah.
I've never really gotten a whole lot of clients from Facebook. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
I don't mean this in a mean way if you're a Fireside Facebook follower, but I think Fireside has 20, maybe 25,000 Facebook followers, or whatever you call them, on Facebook, and I've found no value in it. There's no engagement. There's no, our Instagram engagement. We have a much smaller Instagram following, but they're way, way more engaged than the Facebook. That's 4 times the size.
Right. Facebook is it's meant for cat cat photos and political memes and everything else. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I deleted my account about a year and a half ago, and I
Never
feel
look back.
better. I feel better for it, man.
Yeah.
Like I really do. I'm
sure
just
you
like,
are better
man,
for it.
I just watch, even my girlfriend or whatever. Like I'll just watch her on Facebook for
Yeah.
like 20 minutes at a time, and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
it's just really nothing's changed. I promise you.
Yeah. So if people want to find your work, book an appointment, what's the best way to get you? Is Instagram?
Instagram, yeah, I'm at Dan Whipkey Tattoos. You can always my cell's on there. You can text me, or you can even DM me, or my email's on there as well. So it's weird. I've never really given out my cell number before.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that's going.
Well, I did that when I moved down here because, like I said, just trying to build up clientele, and it's crazy. Nobody has abused it.
Huh.
It's I've always been leery about giving out my number.
Yeah.
And not once has somebody abused it to the point where I said, like, all right, enough, But so it's actually been really good. I do have some regular clients that they know they can just send me a text of, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking or whatever like that. And I'm like, I'm still pretty old school about scheduling. Like, I still use a paper calendar, even though we have, like, all this high-tech stuff up at the front desk, but I still have to have that hard copy of looking at my appointment book every day.
Too.
And so, they'll text me, and I'll be like, hey, do you have these dates available? And I'm like, cool, yeah, absolutely. So just put them in the book that way, and, it's actually been – it's weird. I don't recommend giving out your cell number.
Yeah.
I really don't. But for me, it
worked for
hasn't
you.
been a bad experience.
Huh. That's good to know. When I heard you yesterday when you were finishing up the tattoo, you gave someone a card and said that your number was on there if they have any questions, and it caught my ear. I was like, what? Your actual number's on there?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's because I when I moved down south, I started traveling a lot. Like I was last year from this show, so middle of February, that was the beginning of me traveling, and I spent all the way until May on the road.
Oh.
Like I just doing guest spots around the South, stuff like that. So I was like, all right, well,
throw it out there.
Put my cell number on my card, and and that way next time I'm rolling through town or whatever like that, they can text me and try and see that I'm coming into town or whatever like that. Sometimes people will text me, and I still direct them to my email, though.
Yeah.
Like, hey, send me everything over through email.
Yeah.
They text me, and it's not like I'm putting their names in my phone or anything like that. They're not part of my regular contacts, but I just tell them, if you're going to text me, let me know who you are and what I've already tattooed on you, and so.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that's working out. I would have been hesitant to do that.
I've been hesitant my whole career doing that, but moving to a different town and the first shop I worked at, I just kind of had a hard time fitting in. I just wasn't. It was a weird vibe, but I end up, building up a little bit of a clientele there, and so I was like, hey, this is a good way to get, And then I had read something too that 99% of people check their text messages, but only 3% check their email.
Huh.
So
that doesn't surprise me. I bet that's
so and then. So I was like, I was really reluctant about it, and it's everything I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm not giving out my number. But now it's, like I said, nobody's abused it. And when they do, it's wonderful that you have that little block button,
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But, I mean, that's one way to look at it, if somebody starts, But, yeah, it's been
good.
Pretty good experience so far.
Well, good. So your travel for this year, people were, obviously if you're in the Atlanta area, you're in the suburb, you're kind of close to Roswell, right?
Yeah, we're just a couple miles from downtown Roswell. We're technically in Sandy Springs, but it's right there on the border.
And your travel outside of, when is Russia?
Russia is in June, and then I do 2 guest spots a month down in Columbus, Georgia, right down by Fort Benning, usually at Iron Rose Tattoo or Atomic Tattoo, which it's 2 different names, but they're owned by the same people. Okay. So, yeah, so I go down there twice a month, and I get to do a ton of cool, like, street style walk-in flash, military flash, and stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun because it gives me the best of both worlds of that cool street shop feel, and then I get to go home for a couple of weeks and do more custom stuff. And so, yeah, it's that's been a lot of fun just having that, because it's real, like, you just don't hear about, like, shops being that crazy, but, man, like, being down, like, in a military town, man, it's
different world, huh?
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun, you know, like, just meeting people from all over the country that are just on base for some kind of training. They're only in town for 2 weeks, and you know, they might be, you know, I've tattooed people from Alaska, you know, Texas, whatever, you know, so you're just meeting all these people from all over, and it's really cool, and you know, really it's cool to meet people from different, you know, parts of the country. And
it's one
just
of the best parts of the job, really.
Yeah, I mean, when you're tattooing in the same town for 12 years, you know, you get to know those customers so well. You know they're from, you know, they're from your hometown. You know, there's not a whole lot of, but yeah, it's really cool to just go out and meet people and just, you know.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks. That's awesome.
Awesome, man.
I'm glad we got to dive in a little bit to the relocation, because it's something that we get messaged about a lot. People that are just, a lot of times it's stuck in dead-end towns. It's not
Absolutely.
just where Buffalo probably wasn't a dead-end town and had a good tattoo community. You owned a shop there, so it's a different situation, but same experience.
Sure. I mean, it's always, you know, I mean, yeah, if you're looking to relocate or whatever, like I said, man, call up. Go do some guest spots, man. It's always good to step out of your comfort zone and go work with all these people who may have the same style as you, but have a completely different approach, you know? And it's, you know, you learn so much from just getting out there and going to work with people. You know, doesn't matter how busy you are at the shop, you know, that you're doing a guest spot at, you know, you just stand over somebody's shoulder, you know, that you're like, oh, wow, like, that's a cool little trick, you know?
Form a new
and
relationship.
And then you pick up some tricks along the way, and so, I mean, it's helped me out for sure. Yeah.
Man, thanks so much for taking the time.
I appreciate you having me on, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Dan Whipkey, it's just Dan Whipkey on Instagram?
Yeah, it's Dan Whipkey Tattoos.
Tattoos on Instagram. If you find yourself in Georgia, look him up. Or if you find yourself in Russia, look him up.
All right, man.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.